Yeah, yeah, I can hear you. It's quite quiet, but I can hear you.
You're very, very quiet. We can just make you out.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Education Overview and Scrutiny meeting, 13th January. We've received apologies from Councillors Ditter, Jevons, Joel and Nazreen, and the substitutes are Councillor Singh, Sowell, Councillor Joel, Councillor Bajia and Councillor Nazreen. Now, declarations of interest received.
I'm covering Seth Johal. I'm substitute Seth. I'm covering Seth Johal. Councillor Johal.
Thank you. Local government to agree that the public be excluded from the private session during consideration of the agenda items indicated for the reasons shown on the agenda. It's now private report. To approve the minutes and sign the minutes of the meeting of the committee that was held on the 20th of November 2021. Now we go on to have the minutes approved, please. Yeah. Thank you. Right. Just changing the agenda around slightly, going straight to agenda item 8 on the agenda. Hand you over to Councillor Tao.
Thanks, Chair. This report is to update members on the progress made in the written statement of action which was produced following the Ofsted inspection in February 2019, which determined that a written statement of action was required because of significant areas of weakness within the service. The stock take has just been completed to review all the actions within the written statement of action and to identify the evidence available to support its current status. Analysis shows that 81% of the actions are completed, that being 149 out of the 184. Additionally, the stocktake also highlighted significant developments in other areas, such as the risk assessment for children and young people within education, health and care plan, and the monitoring activities to ensure those not attending school were safe and well. Also, the introduction of a programme called Headspace to support education staff. This included a telephone support line for school leaders 7 days a week from early morning to late evening. EHC timeliness, that's it, Education Health Care Plan timeliness, continues to be a strong focus for improvement, and the report includes an update on actions being implemented to ensure we see significant recovery in this area. Judith Nash, Head of Service Inclusion, is here virtually to clarify anything in the report, to answer any operational questions. Also, Sharon and I are happy to take any other questions. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Jude.
Hello, good evening, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Good evening, my name's Judith Nash. I'm here as the Interim Head of SEND and Inclusion. I accept the members may have read the report that's been included tonight, and therefore I'm just going to go straight to the key messages from that report. So the EHC team, the SEND team within Walsall, we are operating within a two-part project. The first part is a recovery project, which will see the completion of backlogs within statutory assessment and annual review projects. It will also see children who are missing from education and vulnerable children within placement provision that may be at risk or has broken down entirely will be a focus to source new placements and to ensure those children are adequately placed from now on. So the first part of the project is known as Achieving EHC Pathways, and we have a strong team focus on that. We've recruited more capacity and have a strong leadership now within core areas of statutory assessment, annual reviews and vulnerable children. The project will last until the 1st of March, and within that we will clear the review backlog. We will clear the statutory assessment backlog. We aim to improve timeliness to 60%, and we will have a significant input into the review backlog, focusing on the most vulnerable children and as our first priority. The annual review backlog is a slightly more significant project, so that will run past the 1st of March. At the 1st of March, we move into a transformation project, which will be called Transforming EHC Pathways. And that is when we'll work with the schools and with parents to improve co-production and co-design of a long-term sufficient project, a process, a long-term sufficient service, which will be designed by all for everybody, and will really see children and people at the heart of all the processes that we do and centre around their best outcomes. Our key milestones for the first part of the project are that we will clear half of annual review backlogs, statutory assessment by the 1st of February, and then we will clear all the statutory assessment backlogs by the 1st of March. And our timeliness, we will start seeing an increase by the 1st of February, and then we aim to have our timeliness above 60% by the 1st of March. I think, Sharon, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Thank you very much, Jude. Now, I think we've got things covered in the well, so we're happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Thank you, Jude. Can we just formally note the then local area improvement programme and the EHC, please. Now, on to item number 7. And this is the Walsall Skills Overview report. And over to Councillor Tell. Thank you.
You're very kind, Chair. As requested by members at the previous scrutiny meeting, this report gives an overview of the schools in Walsall and the quality provision, including the outcomes of the latest Ofsted inspection, which, despite the challenges schools are facing, remain positive. Just for your information on school attendance figures, I have the latest figures, which are primary schools 92.6%, which means 44,530 pupils are in school. Secondary school 87.6% attendance, which means 23,255 pupils are at school. And PR proves, that's pupil referral units, 58.9%, which means 156 pupils are in attendance. And special schools 86.5%, which means there are 1,037 pupils in attendance. Also, for your information, the latest figures I have on the impact of COVID in Walsall schools are staff with a positive test 37, pupils with a positive test 151, number of settings at schools, stroke nurses, etc. affected 22. For your information, for Walsall generally, the current rate of infection is 2,152 cases per 100,000 against a national figure of 1,919 per 100,000, with 5,986 cases confirmed locally in the last 7 days. So it's quite significant in Walsall. You can see why we have the problem in schools. This report also gives an overview on all the projects currently in place to support school leaders at this time and demonstrates the wide range on offer to schools to support them and their children. This offer has been circulated to schools and will be available on the local offer on the website. I have to thank Shannon for the work she's done putting that together. There's a lot of work to show you all the work that's been done within schools, and I have to thank Shannon for doing so. The report also highlights the current government consultation in relation to school improvement that may impact on the local authority's role from April this year. Sharon, who's with me tonight, who wrote the report, and I are happy to take questions. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor. Over to Sharon, thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you ever so much, Councillor Toe. And just to, first of all, just bring members' attention to the project overview. It came as a request from the last scrutiny committee. We've actually shared it with all our schools as well, and as Councillor Toe said, is again on the local offer. It's not actually everything that's currently available. It's everything that I could remember really and get in one place at that time. But I think what it assures you of, and what is good to see, is the vast array of support services, projects that are available to schools for our children, young people at this time. And it's still developing. I've been in 2 meetings with head teachers and the service leads today where we've already got a couple more projects that we're discussing with them to add to this service. So I hope that you find it assuring of all the activity that's out there to support our children. I would also just like to again refer back to the consultation that is in the report on the school improvement grant, the local authority monitoring and brokering grant. The consultation did close and it's hot off the press. The Department of Education are continuing with the proposal as was. So we are, and as you've got in the paper, so we are currently now consulting with our schools forum over how we move that forward to ensure, because as you probably picked up from the paper, that money supported the local authorities' function of knowing our schools, being able to identify where early intervention and support might be needed, being able to broker some of that with our other schools or even with our own services, and also being able to intervene both informally and formally as and when is needed. We will still have that accountability to know and to intervene, but without that funding and without that knowledge. So we are working very closely, and again, this is due to the good relationships and with our schools. We are currently working with our schools forum to ensure that wherever that funding sits, that we still work together as a partnership to ensure that both of us, the school partners and ourselves, know and have a joint approach to how we're going to work on this together. So we are currently in those discussions now. It has been confirmed, and I will ensure that I'll update scrutiny at the next meeting as there's been a change. And again, just want to raise it again to attention to the attendance rates. Even at this challenging time, with the increased rates in COVID as we've seen, we have got no full school closures, which is an absolute testament to the work that the schools are doing and the staffing challenges that they have in order to ensure that our schools are still open and our provision is still there for our children. We have some part class closures, etc., due to staffing, but again, it's a small, less than 2 hands, small number of schools and classes that's affecting at the moment. And again, the schools are working really closely with the parents, ensuring that they're still open on site for vulnerable children and ensuring remote learning is continuing, and that is happening for the shortest period possible. So again, I would just like to draw your attention and say thank you to the schools for the work that they're doing at the moment at this time. I'm happy to take any questions.
Councillor.
Cool. Thank you, Chair. Okay, first question is, you talked about the improvement grant. Can you just talk a little bit more about how that's been utilised and where is the main going?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm panicking. I don't know if I can hear properly with my glasses on and my mask scarf or on, because for some reason both of them affect my hearing and I know they don't, so apologies. The school improvement grant at the moment, we use it to fund 2 pieces of activity and work. One is within our own services in our own area, so that the schools have someone to go to. We have a quality assurance manager. We have that close relationship. We know where we have a data analysis team. We actually have the schools causing concern matrix, which we've discussed before, where we capture all the information that we can that's either publicly available, formally available, informally available, anecdotally, etc., where we can build up a picture and a knowledge of our schools. The majority of that grant then goes on our challenging education consultants and contract. We have an outside team of external school improvement consultants who then also visit our schools. We do that on according to the RAG rated status that we've discussed before in our schools causing concern. So, for example, our red schools, where we've got the highest level of concern, they go and visit for us more often. And the reason why we do that is because we need to know, we need to discuss with the schools what they're doing to improve, but we also need to try and help and support, facilitate, signpost as well during that time. During COVID, and I think we mentioned it at the scrutiny at the beginning of the year, we've actually commissioned our challenging education consultants to go and visit every school this year, regardless of RAG status. And we felt that was important because obviously coming back to full school opening, full development of curriculum, etc., we really needed to get a good feel for, you know, how our schools are coping and any support that they might need. So at the moment, it funds the ability to know and collate all that data, have someone to go to and then to commission that work, and it funds the commissioning of that work. So part of the conversation that we'll be having with Schools Forum is how do we continue to use that funding if it sits in Schools Forum and they choose not to de-delegate it back to us? How do we continue to do that activity or activity like that in partnership with them to ensure that we both know and how and who is going to do that? So that will be the discussion.
Can I ask you a question?
Carry on.
So you talked about the reviews. So what are the sort of key highlights of those reviews? Sorry, what are the key highlights from the reviews that you've had? So what are sort of the main sort of focus areas that they've highlighted and some of the successes that we've got as well?
Yep, absolutely. So there's two parts to it actually with the reviews and what they highlight, because there are some general themes that come out. So for example, and we've discussed before, social mental health issues, not just with the children, but actually with the staff as well, has been absolutely key and something that's come out as a key theme across. The main strength of those reviews, I've got to say though, is that they are absolutely school-based. And it's not about knowing general things, it's been very focused and knowing exactly what that school, those children need and how that school needs to be supported to improve. So each report and each recommendation, action plan is absolutely bespoke and it's completely directed to the school. And also our revisits monitor the progress towards those recommendations and successes, I would like to say. And I'm very proud of our schools for this, I must say. I mentioned last time that we had our two schools, maintained schools that were inadequate, that had a reinspection and have moved to requires improvement with some elements of good, and are continuing that progress rate during this time of the COVID pandemic. Absolutely superb. And actually the majority, and I would say a huge majority, I can actually send the figures around following this meeting, of inspections that have happened since re-inspection started last summer within Walsall are either a continuation of a good result or an improvement. And that is not what is happening everywhere else. And I know that nationally, a lot of the teaching profession, and rightly so, are saying about inspections happening at this time of the pandemic, etc. Some people are saying that the reason why their offset inspection rates aren't improving is due to the pressures of both. But actually our schools haven't done that, and it's been shown with the outcomes of our inspections as well, because we are continuing and they are continuing to improve even throughout the pandemic. So again, a real success.
Comment from Sharon about the schools, the positivity in the schools through the inspections. It's been a brilliant outcome for everybody. I'd like to thank the schools for the work they've done. Of course, Challenging Education, a very good organisation. They go in, as Sharon said, they look at the school holistically, look at everything that they need, and they come up with some kind of plan if it's needed to support the schools. It's been a very useful tool, and we're hopeful that it will continue, that the School Forum will work with us at the CAP to ensure we continue to be involved. We have a responsibility, Sharon clearly says, schools, so we do need that involvement. It works, and we want to see it carry on working.
Thank you, Ken.
Got a couple of questions. You know, in terms of the grants, that you mentioned. Are the schools quite forthcoming when you go in and or do you get any backlash from any academy, especially? Okay. The other thing is where you've got inadequate and requires improvement. Are these schools have they got similar problems? Are they in particular areas where can you tell us like the borough and issues in terms of require? And finally, the schools said you know eventually all schools. Would that be like a compulsory or like asking us you know can turn you down?
Okay, thank you. So I think the first question there was about if the schools are happy to work with us at the moment. Then there's another question as well about the schools for about if we think they'll continue going forward. And what are the reasons? Yeah. Okay. So with regards to schools work with us, absolutely, they really do actually on the whole, even academies with our schools causing concern status. Now we don't actually have the formal challenging education process with academies, that is for maintained schools only, so that grant is for maintained schools only. What we do and complete our schools causing concern process and knowledge of all the schools, including academies. Schools work with us on that, and especially with our maintained schools, because of the additional support that you can get, and it's about support. You know, the challenge is there, and you know, intervention powers are there. But actually, what we want to do is not let a school fall over in the first place and have to formally intervene. So we really do want it to be a supportive and developmental process. Because of that, schools have absolutely engaged with it, and actually, we have a lot of positive feedback to our challenging education work and our consultants. We've actually had schools that were red rag rated, who then have been making improvements and progress and have changed during the process to an amber, who were disappointed and requested they were red again, because actually that enabled them to continue with that support and improvement. So we see that as a positive. Plus, we haven't had, and I shall touch wood here, we haven't had one offset inspection for any of our schools, and bearing in mind they are targeting the improvement and inadequate schools, which are the schools that we've identified in our target. We haven't had one school where the outcome of the offset inspection has been any different to what we expected, and we are also spoken to as part of that has been any different. So we see that as an absolute positive. The joined up approach, it does work. We do know the school. We agree, and we are getting the same finding. Inspection is the external quality assurance, and also we can see the inspection outcomes improving. So it's with regards the going forward with all schools, it will depend on the model that is formally chosen and agreed once those discussions have had, how that will move forward. I would assume though, and you would assume that because this is about schools again leading improvement as it should be, there's a proven model that's been working. Challenging education has got good feedback from the schools. If that model is either continued or tweaked or something different, it will be the decision of the schools with us leading on that. Hence, if it's their decision, their ownership, two things should happen, and hopefully we want to make this decision, whereas it wouldn't be a decision we want to have made, and it's not what we really want to happen. We want to make it happen because we're going to in the right way, because the schools are leading on it, and because of that positive track record that we've got, they will be accountable and making that decision. So A, they will want to open their doors and allow it to happen. Plus, actually, they will own it far more. So I would expect that that rate of activity to be better and increase. So hopefully, if we can work together and make this work properly, it should and could have a positive. I want to make it a positive impact, but it's going to happen. Yeah, so maintained schools, we've got 66, gosh, you're testing my math, we've got 66 of our primary schools maintained, which is the majority. And we only have 2 of the 24 secondaries who are majority of academies, secondary schools. And all of our special schools, bar 1, which is Phoenix, isn't it? Special schools.
Councillor Lowe.
Thank you very much, Chair. And thank you, Sharon, for a very comprehensive report, which I think demonstrates some really fantastic support programmes that you've got available. My question really is how well utilised are these support programmes and how are you promoting them throughout the different schools? Thank you very much.
Okay, so the work that we've done at the moment to pull them together, we've got 2 seconded head teachers working with us at the moment, authority. One of the things that they are doing is building that now together as a directory that we can put on the local office, get live and up to date, so that schools know there's one place to go if they want to find something. We're also working together as a whole of children's services to ensure that incorporates everything that is an offer to schools. So there will be one place for them to go to be able to know what's there and to be supported. We inform them, so we still continue with the weekly brief, which is a bulletin that goes out every week to schools, and everything new that comes on, we also inform them in that. So every week they'll get dates. We also put reminders on there, and I also have a schools causing concern tracker, where for every programme that we have available to schools, I also have every school listed, and Nick Perks, our quality assurance manager, keeps a track of which schools are attending what programmes. Now, the reason why we do that, very much, I must be very honest, I'm very honest in the schools, is a very good challenge back. So when the school reads, how have you supported this child? Or they say, what do we do? Where do we go to? I can actually say, well, I'm aware that this is available, this is available, this is available, and actually you're not using it. So again, we can use it back as part of that challenge role as well. So that's how we're ensuring that schools know and that we know, so that we can then also challenge if they're not being.
Thank you very much.
So there are a number of the programmes that are council led. They're not all external. There are external programmes. Of them that are council led. Schools and
Thank you. Councillor.
Thank you. Thinking about the comments regarding mental health that we've mentioned, this is the second committee this week where I've attended, and the youngsters across Walsall have mentioned mental health support. Are we going to move that forward via schools? Because I don't want to be attending a committee where we are just talking about it. For me, it's about doing something about it. So are we schools engaged in addressing the mental health issues that children, youngsters of the borough are raising?
No, absolutely. And I think if you have a look through that programme that I attached to the appendix of the report, you'll see actually there's a vast array of mental health programmes as well as resources. So it's a real key sort of area for us, and it's absolutely what we're doing about it. So there's an overview in there of all the different things that are happening. So we have mental health leads being supported and trained through the health service and our Ed Site service within schools. We have mental health programmes for staff. And in fact, at our virtual head teachers briefing today, which Councillor Toe attends every week, we had Couth attend, which again is available to all of our children and young people from 11 up, completely free of charge. It's an online support for mental health and counselling. There are people to talk to, there are resources, etc. And this is for the children to access directly as well. And again, we are making sure that our schools are aware of everything that's out there. So if there's, I suppose, the ask as well from ourselves to yourselves within the community and within Walsall, if there's anything that you become aware of within your communities as well that could support, please do let us know, because make sure we'd include it in the directory.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor.
Just back on the question that Councillor Lee posed earlier regarding the facilities and not available to schools. It would be good to have a bit of a breakdown of what the usage is of those, not as a from individual schools, but as an overall, how much are those facilities or services being utilised by the schools themselves?
Unfortunately, we don't have that information because the schools are responsible for their premises and even maintain schools. It is up to them and their governing body if they want to lease it out, hire it out, give it free of charge to community use, or if they have services before and after school, holiday clubs, etc. That isn't information that we hold, unfortunately, so we don't know how often they are used. Although what we do at the moment in the Holiday Activity Fund, we've spoken about that before, the HAC project, we have a lot of schools that have either taken part and supported in providing services during the school holidays, or provided their premises to be able to help providers. And again, I know Isabel van der Heeren, one of my colleagues in Children's Services, is also having those conversations with schools. I think she attended, well, I know she attended the primary nursery special school heads meeting this morning because I was there as well, and had that discussion with them as well. So we try as much as we can to engage and encourage, but as to the volumetrics for usage, we don't hold that information, I'm afraid. Each school would have that individually.
Chair, about the Holiday Activity Fund, it's a very important thing that we're doing. We've got funding now for 3 more years to do this. And the take-up was quite good in certain areas, but poor in other areas. So I would ask members of the committee, if you're on governing bodies, just like that, you actually look at this for your children and young people, because it's important. These activities are good. Children are fed as well, which is important. Free school meal to children, generally, for that's what the activity is funded for. Also children with HCP plans and care leavers and things like that. So we have added people into the list. But I would appeal to you, where you're on a school governing body, you have a connection with us, encourage the school to promote it to the children and young people. It really is good. I attended about a dozen in the summer. But all the children and young people who attended were delighted to be there and really got some pleasure out of it. It was a good initiative. We've got it now for 3 more years. So it'd be great to see 50%, not 20% of children people taking up the offer. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And I just want to make a point on that, sorry. In the last report, didn't they say that it's helped with attendance, this HAP programme?
Yes, it has. Thank you, Chair. So the early indications are that the children, as Councillor Toe said, it was open to children eligible for free school meals at that time. We have extended it this time over and above that to include EHCP children, care leavers, etc. But the children that did attend, there has been some early analysis, and actually their attendance the term following that holiday break has been better than their cohort, so i.e. the eligible preschool meal children who didn't attend, but actually we're also seeing early indications that it's better attendance than what we would call the normal population, in order to have a comparison as well. So it's yeah, having an impact that we would.
Thank you. Okay.
I just wanted to ask Councillor Toll, with saying there's some areas for this holiday scheme makeup hasn't been very good. How else have you promoted it? I mean, have you gone to the external providers and in that area?
Well, there may be some radar that you know, governing bodies and meetings. Got a thing to speak to Roland and Duncan, White House, when the governor's agenda meetings, that we promote it there, because it's a great initiative. That's your side of the board. So, anything members. Do try and get to as many. No. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? So this is just for the committee to consider the Ofsted outcomes of Walsall School and scrutiny, consider the contents of this report and decides whether there should be further information or action. committee to consider the impact of the proposed changes to the school improvement grant. Can I have somebody to, thank you. Now on to agenda, item 8 on the agenda, update on school organisation, pupil place planning. I think it's over to Rob. Oh, sorry, Councillor Town now, I'm sorry.
Sure. Chair, it's perfectly all right. I'd just like to say a few words just to introduce it before Rob speaks. Hello, Rob. The purpose of this report is to summarise the role of the school organisation service, update on pupil place planning for primary and secondary in Walsall, provide background information on capital funding and school expansion schemes. Members of the committee will be aware the council has a statutory duty to ensure there are sufficient school places for resident children who want a school place, and that the local authority has a general duty under Section 14 of the Education Act 1966 to ensure there are available in each area sufficient schools, in brackets, in number, character and equipment to provide all pupils the opportunity of appropriate education. For primary, since 2016, birth numbers began to reduce, which has led to a forecast reduction in demand. The falling birth rate suggests there will be a requirement for conversations with schools about reducing their published admission number to ensure a school does not become financially unsustainable. The school organisation manager will begin these conversations in the spring term this year. The situation with secondary intakes forecasts there will be sufficient places for this year, September 2022, but shortages thereafter. This will mean we have to look at developing options for additional capacity. Those options include reviewing current net capacities, review of the possibility of expanding schools, and the consideration of a new provision by building a new free school. Additionally, the school organisation team is reviewing the requirement for special education needs and disability places across the borough in terms of pupil place planning and future-proofing our place requirements. Working closely with the inclusion service at the council, and particularly the SEND EHC pre-assessment team, a 5-year plan is being created to ensure our statutory responsibility of having ample school places is met. There are a number of areas where additional place requirement could be created for Walsall pupils. This could be via expansions of existing provision within the borough, review of capacity within mainstream schools that could accommodate or support of hub provision, or the creation of a free school. Rob Thomas, who I just alluded to, Head of Access, is with us virtually to clarify anything within his report and to answer any operational questions. Sharon and myself are also happy to take any questions. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Town. Now over to Rob. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Toe, for the introduction. As Councillor Toe indicates, the local authority does have a duty to ensure sufficiency of places, and that it retains the strategic planning function even when a number of schools in the authority are academy status. So it's not an individual school basis, it relies on the local authority to ensure the sufficiency of places in conversations with our schools. As Councillor Toe indicated, the 3 key areas of the report are the primary sector, and it would be remiss of me not to mention that the local authority has invested significant capital resource into the primary sector to create those sufficiency of places. So that has been welcome received by our schools and our communities. We now have sufficient capacity in the primary sector, and that is looking longer term. We will be looking at different utilisation of some of those spaces if capacity reduces. At secondary level, we know that the primary sector is moving through to the secondary level, and as Councillor Toe indicates, we are now working with our school colleagues on how we can provide that additional capacity, and further plans will be brought to members in the near future. And I think the third and most important part of the report at the moment is a specialist places report for some of our most vulnerable learners in the borough. We are working with our head teacher colleagues, and as Sharon indicated earlier, we have 2 seconded head teacher colleagues who are leading this project with myself to look at sufficiency of in borough highly complex special needs provision, both within the special school environment, but also some of our more learners impacted provision in the mainstream school buildings. I hope this overview has been helpful to members, and the Councillor indicated more than happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Any questions, anybody? you. Do you want to add anything, Sharon? Or no? Okay. Sorry.
Can you just talk through about the shadow board, what that consists on, and how does it work, operate?
Apologies, I didn't quite catch that, Councillor.
That's okay, thanks, Rob. Can you just clarify the question, please, and which paper it refers to? In relation to the SEND paper, is that? Ah, sorry, okay. I'm happy to take that though. So the shadow board, we are developing a board working with our virtual school head and our children's champion of children and young people who will have either could have hit some criteria or all the criteria, had an EHCP, needed SEND support, been a looked after child, had a social worker, maybe had child protection plan, children need, work with our early help service, etc. And we're putting together a board of children and young people that will be just that, a shadow board for governance and decisions, working with our Walsall Learning Alliance and our SEND local area improvement board in order to be challenging us, helping us with our direction, also part of the decision-making process when we're looking at services, etc. So we're putting together a governance board, a management board, for want of a better word, made up of those children and young people.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Sharon. Any further questions?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask, really, basically, with the primary schools, with the sort of decline in birth rates and things, and schools are sort of having to cater for so many predicted, Pam. I was reading that obviously I think you're going to meet with the heads to discuss, because obviously each school is going to be a bit different. So it's just concern, I think, being a governor on the schools, that obviously there's funding allocated to schools, but just to check, you know, obviously schools need to know as well ahead.
Yes, thank you, Councillor. My team and myself will be meeting with groups of schools in the planning areas to discuss a range of data sets, including the forecasted demand for places, the current admission numbers, the consensus data, and clearly we want to ensure that schools are sustainable and have the appropriate amount of staffing, and not too many or not enough staffing. So it is implicit on us all working together to ensure that we have the right number of pupils in the right schools. It may mean over a period of time we do look to utilise some of that space, whether that's a reduction in the admission number for mainstream school places, but I just mentioned regarding the need for specialist accommodation within a mainstream environment. So a primary school with a reducing number may wish to have a hub unit for some of their SEN pupils. So there's different ways of looking at how we can accommodate pupils in the schools to ensure schools are sustainable financially.
So, thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Councillor.
What is the drop of the birth rate and how it's affecting the schools?
Thank you, Councillor. I think in relation to the previous question from the previous councillor, there is a reduction in birth rate. It's a small reduction at the moment, 1 or 2% per academic year, and that's the impact it will have on primary schools. So as we forecast places over a 5-year period, it will reduce our numbers of pupils in the borough unless we have a change in the birth rate. Demographics are quite fluid. It relies on birth rates, but also migration data and people coming into the country or into the borough from in migration, and also net migration going out as well. So we will continue to keep the data up to date. We will bring it back to the Commission on an annual basis so you can see the data and you can see the impact that's having on school place provision.
Question, please. What is the central government doing to improve the birth rate?
Maybe not a question I could answer. I don't think it's an issue for Walsall to comment on increasing birth rate demands.
What are who's going to pay for our pension if there's no birth load is not controlled?
Increasing birth rates, haven't we, during the COVID period, that which will have an effect ongoing, as I understand it, nationally. I don't know what the effect is in Walsall. We haven't got those figures at the moment, but it's clearly there has been seen a slight increase during COVID, hasn't there? Nationally. So I don't know what the figures are. We perhaps let you know about.
Thank you. Any further? No? Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Sharon and Councillor. Right. So what we'll do now is to receive and consider a report on the school organisation service, pupil place, planning for primary and secondary school, and capital funding and school expansion scheme. Thank you. Yeah. And I'll hand over now to Paul.
Thank you, Chair. So it's item number 9, which is the work programme, which is just for noting there have been no changes since the last meeting, Chair.
Thank you. And now forward plans, receive the Cabinet and the Black Country EJC forward plans.
Is it just for noting, Chair, as well?
Thank you. And the last item is just to note the dating of the next committee meeting will be on Thursday, 17th of February. Thank you all, and thank you to our speakers. The end. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Absolutely. Thanks, Gavin.